So now I would like to share with you the inspirational reading for the day, and it is by Ernest Holmes. And he says, if you will take time daily to sense the presence of life within you, to believe in it, to accept it, undesirable experiences which you have had will gradually disappear and something new will be born, a bigger, better, and more perfect you. You will pass from lack and want into greater freedom, from fear into faith. From a sense of being alone, you will pass into the realization of oneness with everything, and you will rejoice. And so it is. Yes.
So I know that there are many people in here that have been around for a while, that maybe have taken foundations, that understand what I'm really talking about today, and I just invite you to stay open, because it never hurts to hear things a couple of times and to really maybe hear it in a different way, because you're different than you were the first time you heard it, and so now something deeper, something different might show up for you. And for those of you who are newer to the center and newer to our teaching, this idea of spiritual mind treatment, what it is the form of prayer that we teach here. It is the form of prayer that we consciously use to create the experiences of our lives. Now, the term spiritual mind treatment was coined by Ernest Holmes, and it simply means bringing our thinking into alignment with what is true about each of us as an individualized expression of God. Spiritual mind treatment is a way of realizing the presence of spirit, and then really, as Sandy so beautifully sang about, allowing it to be expressed through and as us. Kathy Julene, in her book, It's All About You, says traditional prayer reaches toward God, addressing God as if God were distant from and apart from the person praying. Spiritual mind treatment differs from traditional prayer in that it involves an awareness of your unity with God or Spirit, and in this way allows the qualities of Spirit to be more fully expressed in your life. And doesn't that sound wonderful? Now, when we speak of spiritual mind treatment, we often use the term affirmative prayer. And no matter which term we use to describe it, its core purpose is one thing and only one thing, and that is to cultivate faith. To cultivate faith. It is a specific tool that we use to shift or to move our faith away from the things that are no longer working for us to the things that we desire from the depths of our soul. It may be used to change existing conditions, or it may bring about a completely new experience altogether. The science of mind states that the creative experience of life is really a direct result of the things that we have either actively or passively put our faith into. We teach the power of affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment not as a petition or as a supplication, but really as an inner alignment with the presence and the power of God. By aligning with this truth of who we are at our very core, we are powerfully able to step into the creative process. So let's see how that works. Science of Mind has 10 core concepts. They're beautifully depicted in this artwork created by Marianne Hardy, one of our licensed spiritual practitioners. And core concept 1 states, we believe that there is one power, one presence in the universe. Now, I happen to call this power and presence God, but it can go by many different names: love, life, nature, spirit, the divine, first cause, absolute, consciousness, or actually nothing at all. Just because we don't call it by anything doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, that it isn't present everywhere. We believe that each person was created by God, out of God's stuff, that each of us is a unique and individualized expression of it. This essence, this power is in everything and in everyone, all of the time, everywhere, in its fullness, in its wholeness, like a hologram. Core Concept 2 says that God is threefold or triune in nature. That there are three aspects or modes of being within the one. These are spirit, soul, and body. Now this thing that you have been looking up here, this thing so beautifully designed and created by Karen Daly, yay, thank you very much, is our teaching symbol. And there's kind of a circle around it, right? But in reality, that circle doesn't really exist because God is infinite. But for teaching purposes, there is this circle. Give it a little structure, right? There are 3 sections to the circle. Each one of the sections represents one of the aspects or modes of God. Core Concept 2 and 3, when taken together, describe the creative process. Core Concept 3 is the creative process itself. It says that God is the great causative power of the universe, that it creates everything. So how that looks is like this, and this V in here represents that creative process. So God as spirit, this aspect up here has a thought. Oh, and we, by the way, everyone will laugh about this, is, we have the analogy of the seed, the soil, and the plant. And it's always said, as you move along through the classes, that it's always the answer to every question. The seed, the soil, and the plant. So this upper section is God as spirit. It has a thought. That is the seed. Remember, this is the volitional, conscious aspect of God. It has a thought. That is the seed. That seed moves down into the second section, the soul. Now, the soul is the unformed substance that everything is created out of. The unformed substance, the unformed energy. It is also the storehouse of all memory. Sometimes you'll hear the term race consciousness. So it is the storehouse of everything that we have ever learned, experienced, regularly thought about, deeply believed in, or absorbed from our families, our cultures, our races, our religions that we grew up in. It is the storehouse of all of our unconscious or subconscious thoughts. So that seed goes down into this middle section, which is the soil. Now this section can do nothing but say, okay, yes, your wish is my command. And it creates an exact replica of our thought into form. This bottom section then is the body, spirit, soul, body. This bottom section is the body. This is our physical bodies, but it is also the body of our affairs. It is all of the manifestations, all of the effects, all of the conditions, all of the circumstances, all of the situations that have ever been created by any of us. It is caused by the thought. Seed, soil, plant. Now the way, this is, really discussing it on the macrocosm, but the way that it works for us as human beings is exactly the same. Since the human spirit is one with the universal spirit, our human thought also is creative. Our thought has creative power because our mind is connected to the universal mind, always. Thus, the experiences of our lives are a reflection of our inner state of being. The feelings that we have, the thoughts that we have, the beliefs that we have matter. They are significant. Everything that we experience is an effect caused by our thoughts, our feelings, and our beliefs. Our thoughts take shape and form the everyday conditions and experiences of our lives. For every form, for every experience, for every effect, there is a cause. Now that cause can be a thought or a belief or an intention, and those thoughts and beliefs and intentions can be conscious or they can also be unconscious. The truth of the matter is that we are always praying, literally we are always creating in our life, but part of the problem is that we're sometimes creating unconsciously. So what we are talking about here with spiritual mind treatment is being able to use this process consciously, to be able to use this universal law to demonstrate or to manifest that which we desire through this creative process, that which we desire. We believe that prayer for ourselves and for others manifests in physical or other types of healing. As I said before, by aligning with the truth of who we are, we powerfully step into the creative process. By letting loose old thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that no longer serve us, and instead turning our attention to a new belief, turning our attention to a new belief in the goodness and givingness of life, will allow each of us to manifest a different way of being in the world. Greater harmony, greater peace, greater joy, greater love. So let's then look at this idea called spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. If it's so important, which I believe that it is, that it really behooves us to really understand it and to practice it in our everyday lives. Affirmative prayer is not begging or beseeching. It is a recognition and acceptance that God is all that there is, that God is everywhere at all times, that there is no spot where God is not, that we are all spiritual beings right here and right now. And all of the peace, all of the joy, all of the creativity, all of the love, all of the wisdom, all of the abundance that is the very presence of God itself is already within us. And all we need to do is to embody it and accept it. There are 5 steps. There's 5 steps to this affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment. And the 5 steps are really just an opportunity to really use this creative process very powerfully. So it's a technique that we use. These 5 steps provide a structure and a technique that we can use to really focus our attention on what it is that we really want and desire. The 5 steps are recognition, unification, realization, gratitude or thanksgiving, and release. Now, before you begin to either write or speak an affirmative prayer, the invitation is to formulate the purpose of that particular treatment. So the first thing that you will do is to state the condition in your life that you want to change. State the condition that you want to change. So, for example, you could say, I urgently need a new job. My unemployment benefits are running out and the bills are stacking up. That's the condition that we want to change. Then you are going to state the changed condition that you are expecting to experience by utilizing this prayer, by speaking this prayer. You hear me? That you expect to experience by speaking this prayer. So, for example, I could say, I am grateful for my new job, which fills all of my financial needs with enough to spare and share, and provides growth and contribution for my self-expression. State the condition that you want to change, and then state the changed condition that you are expecting to happen. I need a job. I have a job. In the recognition step, we recognize that God is all that there is. This step allows us to remember that which is back of everything, and to allow ourselves a moment before we really speak the prayer to allow our awareness of God to expand, to really allow our awareness of that presence that is within us and surrounding us to just fill every fiber of our being. We speak about its essence. We speak about its goodness. We speak about its eternality, its omniscience, its benevolence. We remind ourselves that it is the presence of peace, joy, creativity, love, all of the goodness that exists in the world. We use the words that allow us, each of us individually, everybody's words are going to be a little teeny bit different. You can't compare yourself to anybody else. You're going to use the words that really allow you to feel the presence of God that is within you and surrounding you. They're your words. The tagline of this step is God is, and the feeling tone is awe. Now, in the unification step, we unify our thinking with God, recognizing that our mind is an individualized expression of God's mind. That even though we know that God is the only intelligence that there is, that this knowledge doesn't do us any good in a specific way until we really identify with it, till we align with it. In this step, we accept the idea that we are now thinking with the mind of God. Now thinking with the mind of God. The tagline is I am, and the feeling tone is unity. Notice that these first two steps, unification, recognition and unification, are really akin to meditation, and are considered by many people to be the most deeply significant and essential parts of the prayer itself. Right? The Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else will fall into place. Recognize and align with the power and presence back of all creation. Now, in our knowingness of the allness of God and in our awareness of our unity with it, we are able to turn away from the conditions that we want to change and be able to see the spiritual truth of it. It's much easier to do when we recognize and align first. Realization is the next step. The word realize means to make real. I love that, to make real. So in this step, we use positive affirmations, we speak in first person, we speak in real time, we align ourselves with what it is that we desire, with the experience that we want to have, knowing that even though we might not in this moment be experiencing that on the human side of life, that on the spiritual side of life, it is already so. It is already so. During this step, we consciously erase or dissolve the whatever it was that caused the difficulty in the first place. In this step, we consciously erase or dissolve anything unlike God. We are willing to give up our false beliefs, our opinions, and our attitudes, and use whatever words are necessary to really allow us to have the feeling that the experience that we want is already complete. To wear the coat of the person that is already doing the thing or already has the thing that we want. Kathy Julian says, focusing your attention on lack and limitation produces a like experience. When you shift your attention away from lack or limitation and focus instead on what is ultimately true about you, such as the spiritual qualities of health, abundance, and peace, accepting these qualities as who you are, you experience health, abundance, and peace in your life. It's really that simple. Not always easy, but that simple. In a spiritual mind treatment, the realization that a desired good already exists within us replaces our belief in lack and limitation. In a spiritual mind treatment, the realization that our good already exists within us establishes a receptivity to the expression of God or Spirit in whatever specific way we are affirming. We're allowing it without any resistance, because we are aligned with it. The bottom line is that the more that we can embody within our own minds the wholeness of spirit and align our thinking with this spiritual truth, then the more wholeness we will experience in our life. The new thought, the new belief takes form through the operation of the creative process, through that universal law, the law of mind. The tagline of the realization step is I know, and the feeling tone is confidence. In the Thanksgiving step, we speak to our gratitude for the demonstration of our prayer even as we are just speaking it. Even as. Because what we know is that our words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, and that it clothes our words in form. Who in that minute I felt a little bit like a weather girl. Or maybe Reverend Andy. One of the two. So we're grateful. We're grateful because we have thought this idea, we have loosed it into that law. We know that that law just simply says yes and clothes our words in form, and we give thanks for the manifestation beforehand because we know how it works. The tagline for this step is I am grateful, and the feeling tone is gratitude. And the release is next. In this step, we mentally let go of the treatment. And once again, allow the law to work out the good that we have established in mind for ourselves. Let the law work it out. Let that creative process unfold. We're no longer concerned about the situation, and we are free to act as though the demonstration is already complete. The tagline is I release, and the feeling tone is completion. Ernest Holmes says there is a technique for spiritual mind treatment that can be taught. And there is something vital to a treatment that cannot be taught. That which cannot be taught is that which can be taught is outlined for you as the 5 steps of treatment. That which cannot be taught is your own identification with the center and the source of your own being. This is a felt sense that you must discover and foster within yourself through continuous awareness of the presence that surrounds and indwells you. It is the fire that you feel within yourself that fuels knowing the truth of spirit as your source and substance in life. So both the technique and the fire are important. A spiritual mind treatment utilizes the technique and connects us with the power and presence that is back of the manifestation of the prayer. That connection, that deep connection, is the fire. Many people choose to pray only when things are not going so well in their lives. Now, Science of Mind teaches us that we should go to prayer first. It encourages us to get centered, to recognize the presence of God within us and surrounding us, and to align ourselves with that power and presence. The idea is to focus our attention in the direction that we choose for our life to go before the issues arise, before the circumstances arise, before the challenges arise. The bottom line is that a spiritual mind treatment is proactive and not reactive. Although we can also most definitely use it in that way too. The idea really is to pray without ceasing. So the invitation today is to take time out of each day to be alone, to get quiet, to compose our minds, and to think about God. The invitation is to be willing to arrive at a deep sense of calm and peace, and to assume an attitude of faith for something that is greater than we are, for a power that is greater than we are, for a presence that is greater than we are. Spiritual mind treatment actually reminds us of our entire teaching. It actually reminds us of our entire faith. Recognition expands our awareness with God. Unification reminds us of our connection to and embodiment of this power and presence. Realization inspires the power of our word and the clarity of right action. Gratitude invites conviction and our acceptance of our good. And release reminds us to surrender to the way that the law works. Prayer is simply a tool that can assist us to focus our conscious mind so that we may choose consciously what we accept, and that we can create our lives more deliberately and more consistently from one moment to the next. Prayer is a tool that we can practice. And the more we practice it, the better we get at convincing ourselves of the spiritual truth of our being. And the more we convince ourselves, the more we have faith in it. Please repeat after me. My words are a direct reflection of my faith. My words are a direct reflection of my faith. With every prayer, I embody an even greater sense of my own divinity. With every prayer, I embody an even greater sense of my own divinity. And so it is. And so it is. Please turn within. With my eyes closed and my attention turned away from the world of form and to the inner center of my being, that space and place that I call God, I really become acutely aware of its presence within me, its presence surrounding me, its essence of peace and joy, creativity, love, abundance, grace. I know that I was created by it, out of that God stuff. That right where I am, God is in its fullness, in its wholeness. And just as I know that this is true for me, I know that it is true for each and every person here this morning. Each of us is a unique and divine expression of the divine and ambassador of its presence on the planet, imbued with all that it is. And it is from that place of unity, that place of oneness, that I speak these words about and for each of us, individually and collectively this morning, truly knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation, and that we arrived on the planet with all of these amazing divine qualities within us, that it is our responsibility, our joy, to bring those forward out into the world in our own unique and individualized way. And one way that we can powerfully do this, powerfully express who we are out into the world, is through spiritual mind treatment, through affirmative prayer, by creating a life that we love. We pass that feeling tone of joy and love out beyond what we can even imagine. And so I claim for each of us this morning that there is a way that we can live our lives from this place that is deeply grounded in our awareness of the truth of our being, deeply grounded in our awareness of our deep and abiding connection with God, the cause, the first cause, that which is back of everything that there is, that power and presence that created the heavens and the earth. What more could we need or want? That truly what I believe is that as we seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, as we align ourselves with that presence, that the things that we desire in life, those things that we truly already have but cannot seem to see in the moment, that everything else falls to the wayside, that the fog lifts, that the veil becomes penetratable, and that we see the truth of our being, and we allow it to be expressed through and as us, changing our own lives and changing the world, creating a world that works for everyone. And I'm so grateful to know this truth and to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into that law that only ever says yes, that clothes my words in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them with love and gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation. Letting go and letting God be God. And I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves and for each other simply by saying, and so it is, and so it is. That